So, this is the big argument I still hear against the Nintendo Switch. I think in terms of specs, people have accepted that this is more of an alternative to the Xbox One and PS4, rather than a direct competitor. But people still don't feel like the games are there. And the reason I want to talk about this today is that I actually just got back yesterday from a lake house trip with a bunch of my friends over the 4th of July week, where I brought my Nintendo Switch. We had a ton of fun with it, played Mario Kart, ARMS, even Bomberman. They watched me just get wrecked in the new hard mode for Breath of the Wild. It was great. And we had a PS4 and Xbox One there, which we really only used to watch movies, honestly, just because we didn't really have anything on it for us all to play together. I'm not saying there's no games on those systems. Calm down, fanboys. Now, they're all gamers as well, and they had a lot of fun playing these games. A lot of them haven't even played the Nintendo Switch yet. And as the only one with the console, when I asked them, if they were interested in buying one, the answer was still, well, there's just not really any games on it. So I want to kind of tackle this statement in a little bit of depth and break it down. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I've been hard on Nintendo in terms of the lack of games up to this point, particularly what was available at launch. I'm not blind. I don't like seeing the Switch section at GameStop, Best Buy, or wherever being relegated to a small section. Yeah, I don't like that Wii U sort of flashback. But let's be real about this. We are talking about a Nintendo console that has been out for what? 4 months? And in that time, we've gotten Breath of the Wild, one of the greatest launch games in history, if you ask me. Mario Kart 8, okay, it's a port, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And ARMS, which, like it or not, is a new IP. I mean, this is all I hear people cry about these days. They want new IPs. And while it hasn't performed like the previous games I just mentioned, feel free to look up the sales numbers for yourself as to how it compared to mainstays in the genre like Street Fighter V and Tekken 7 during their launch weeks. And while it's not out yet, Splatoon 2 drops in a couple of weeks, which I have played. I'm sure many of you have as well in the test fires. Online is smooth, controls are tight, and it looks like it's going to solve a lot of the missteps the original had, specifically feeling a bit light on content at launch. And I know, Nintendo boys, there are more games than that, plenty of solid titles on the eShop, etc. But I talk about the Xbox One and PS4 in terms of their heavy hitters, so it's not fair for me to say something like, oh, Fast Racing RMX is on the same level as Horizon Zero Dawn. It's not reality. But yeah, those are the big titles the Switch has had so far, and I'll admit, it's pretty light. But let's think also about what we've got coming by the end of the year. Mario plus Rabbids Battle Kingdom, a new crossover IP that I'm pretty excited for. Again, to everyone crying about seeing the 8th and 9th entries in the same franchises. Pokken Tournament DX, another port granted, Fire Emblem Warriors, Mario Odyssey, and my god, if Xenoblade Chronicles 2 really makes it by year's end, I'm gonna freak. I still can't believe it. And sure, we're getting some multi-platform games like the new Sonic titles, some back catalog stuff like Payday 2 and Skyrim, because, Bethesda just wants to see how many times they can sell that game at full price. But the third-party support, as usual, is pretty weak. And you have to identify that major titles like Destiny 2 and the such, they're never going to come to this system. Again, Nintendo is trying to provide an alternative to the competition, rather than just, dropping another wannabe PC onto the market. And here I kind of want to call out the trolls and stuff that always repeat these things like, oh, you can't play Destiny 2, Grand Theft Auto 5. If you were looking for something that plays the big third-party releases, this thing was never for you, and it's never going to be for you. And plus, let's be real, if you're here watching YouTube videos about video games, and you're looking for a system that plays those games, you probably already own a console that does it. But everything I mentioned so far is exclusive to the Switch, and by the end of the year, we're looking at a fair amount of titles in my opinion. I mean, in the same year, a new Zelda, a new 3D Mario title, Splatoon 2, 2 new IPs again, and God willing, Xenoblade 2. I mean, if you were a Wii U owner, you understand how much more impressive this year has been compared to any single year the Wii U had, which granted isn't saying much. But next year is looking to be just as solid with the new Yoshi and Kirby platformers, and supposedly the new Pokemon and Metroid Prime 4 are both slated for 2018. I mean, barring no major delays, just sit and think for a second. How many major hitters the Switch is looking to check off the Nintendo franchise list in just its first 2 years. And I know some haters out there have called me sort of a Switch salesman recently, but let's be real, Nintendo doesn't need anyone to sell people on the Switch, as they're already selling them too fast, as the console continues to sell out almost the moment it's available. And no, do not even compare what we've seen on the Switch so far in its first year to the Wii U game droughts. The titles are at least flowing, maybe not at a rapid-fire pace, but they're all dropping with that Nintendo level of quality that is second to none. Personally, I don't have the time to play like 50 games a year, and especially come Christmas, I'm still probably going to have to pick and choose between some of the Switch releases. Essentially, I understand that the Switch library is still on the light side, but it's building. Again, this is not the Wii U. In fact, I'd argue that you can compare the Wii U's entire library to just what the Switch is looking to get in its first 2 years, and the Switch would still be way ahead. And the games we've seen so far have all been of high quality. So, the way I see it, the days are numbered for this whole "it has no games" argument, as far as it actually holding water. Sure, some idiots will always parrot the same garbage they see until the end of time, because they don't have the mental capacity for an original thought. I still stand by my original statement when the Switch first launched that I think this holiday will be the best time to jump on board for new buyers. Again, I'm not trying to fanboy out here, but rather break it down in reality. By that time, there will be a solid amount of titles out and still plenty more on the way. You're going to hear trolls and other fanboys saying the system has no games, whether it has 10 or 100. In seriousness, if you enjoy Nintendo's type of games, their IPs, as always, there's no other way to play them, plus they're all portable. And hell, I guarantee you, other publishers aren't ignoring the solid sales the console is currently seeing. And especially if things like the Mario plus Rabbids games do well, expect more partnerships in the future. And with that, this video is a wrap. I'm sure many of you out there, you've seen this argument time and time again about the Switch since it dropped. It has no games. Now that the system's been out for a while, a couple of games have dropped, and we kind of have a roadmap as to where it's going in the future, I just kind of wanted to tackle this statement now, especially for maybe people who don't follow Nintendo as closely and think something like Mario Odyssey is like all that's coming between now and the end of the year. But let me know your thoughts on the whole Nintendo has no games argument in the comments. And if you're in that camp, what games are you waiting to see before you pull the trigger on the system? As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.